Good morning, folks. Real late today. It's the last day of 2022. Awaken Israel. Share this video. There's nothing more important than awakening our brothers and sisters in Israel. Like this video if you can, and then share it on social media. I suggest that you speed up my videos at least 1.25%, maybe 1.5%. I don't think that, well, if something gets important, you can slow it back down. No problem. But speed it up. Make the most of your time. I'm not going to record these at a different speed or change that. It's just going to be raw, unedited footage. What I'd like to cover is my overall philosophy and probably take things out there a bit more than what I have. My view of the Bible. There have been times when I've thought we've been handed a bad bill of goods. There have been times I thought that, hey, this is a trap. This is designed to entrap us, to cause us trouble. And I can't help but think about that occasionally. And I realize that's kind of a sour note. That's not exactly a very positive note. But I want you to know I'm that conflicted about this material. The most important thing to me is to continue to press in, because as I press in, I understand more. My reading has not been consistent during these holidays. I have to admit that. I've had some other things dragging me down and other things on my mind. I would have to suggest that you spend more time in it than I have. If you haven't done a read-through, then definitely do a read-through. The easiest Bible to read, I think, is mine. No, I didn't write it. I didn't have anything to do with the publishing of it except the large print. That was my suggestion. And I would ask you, if you're at all interested, to call up the publisher at Name Publishing, or even send them an email message and ask if you can be put on the list for the Apocrypha book, the apocryphal books. He and I had a talk last week, and I want to jump on this iron while it's hot. I don't want to wait. I don't want it cooling down. And we've been talking about this for a while. He asked me what I thought, and the first thing I thought was, let's get a parallel translation out there with a decent version of the original King James side by side with the modern translation, modern English on the right side. Why? Well, one thing is it puts it on an equal plane with the King James Bible. I think this is a better Bible, much better Bible. It also primarily allows people to do scholarly things. There's been so much research done on the 1611 King James Bible. You know, we're talking more than 400 years ago. And there's all kinds of research that's been done on that. And by putting them side by side, it makes it easier for people to flip back and forth between a good concordance and do their research and look at certain points. So I would really like to see that, and I think it's a pretty easy thing to do. I don't think that's nearly as important, to be honest with you. I just think that it would probably sell more Bibles. The publisher wanted to know, should it be large print? No, it shouldn't be the 14-point print that make it way too big. It needs to be the standard print so you can have the pages side by side. And it's going to be more of a study sort of Bible, so it would be for those few who want that. But in order to come up with these things, I've got to have 5,000 people interested in them to make them happen the way I want to make them happen. And I really want to make the Apocrypha books happen in a big way. I have not spent much time in the Apocryphal, the 14 books, things have been pointed out, like the first Christmas having been mentioned in the Apocryphal books, and it's horrible what happened. That's in 1 Maccabees. Go look it up for yourself, the 25th of that month. So do me a favor and get your name on that list for the Apocrypha. The more often he hears it, the better. We may not get 5,000 people interested. If we get 5,000 people interested, then I'm going to insist that we do it large print, and I'll probably go as far as to say, let's tab it and make it large print. It's going to take more to do it. It's going to cost more. Need a 6-month lead time from the day we make the decision to do it. We are continuing to get Bibles published in Belarus. This war is going on, right? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I'm watching. What are we watching into Hollywood? Is that who's presenting all this stuff? This media that we have? And as far as I can tell, they don't care where these weapons end up. There's no accounting for that. What the hell's wrong with them? Don't you want to know where your weapon systems end up? Who gets them? They don't care about that. They don't want any kind of an accounting. Now, what kind of war is that? Every war I've ever studied about, they knew everything that was going on. Shouldn't our own Congress? Of course, our Congress didn't vote for this war, but it's inherent in the fact that they funded it. It's never been formally declared. Of course, it's not our war, but it's being fought from our shores. Just like the war against the Tsar in Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution was run from our shores. It was run from Manhattan. I dare say that most of the wars are run from our shores and planned around the world like that. I really think that at this point. I do believe that we can change the fate of this nation. I do believe you can change your fate. I believe that we can change our vibration, our perspective. I think the major way to do that is you read the Bible. You're accessing the mind of God. It'll definitely open things up for you. I think you turn to Yahweh and pray. And then, more importantly, when you get down to it, ask Yahweh to reveal His will to you. And ask Him for the resources to be able to choose the better choice and do His will. I think Yahshua set that example for us. I believe it's an electric universe. Our souls are electric. Those continue on until the final judgment. Some of us, I think, are going to be taken apart. I think we'll be destroyed. Others of us might be sent to another dimension. There are several dimensions that have been proven to exist. And of course, in all of our theories, we're nothing but a bunch of atoms with a lot of empty space in between. And I disagree. I think there's plenty of room for these other dimensions and other beings to exist. So it's possible that the angels are right here with us at this point, and the demons might be with us at the same doggone time. Those old cartoons of the angel and the devil behind your ears whispering into you, they might actually be really there in other dimensions having access. I do believe that the sun, they're just starting to conceptualize the sun electrically. And I think that if we change our vibration, literally our electric charge, and get these things going the way they should be, where we're actually expanded in our full force. In case you're wondering, the electromagnetic charge from the bodies extends a few feet from you. Social distancing in the old used to be like 12 feet was the distance. We went within 12 feet, you're in a person's personal space. Of course, in our European standard, Western civilization standard, we always think of the divine spark, this little tiny spark inside of you. That's your soul. Well, if you go to Eastern philosophy, they'll talk about that being outside of you, the electromagnetic aura, that field which some people can see, and that is the soul. So it's an interesting conceptualization. When you make love, engage in sex, those auric fields merge, and you walk off with the imprint of the other one, some imprint to a certain extent, according to the old literature, the oldest literature on the earth, which was binary, I believe, Akkadian. The books that they wrote, they tell us that an imprint that a man wears his, that a woman wears the electromagnetic imprint, the auric imprint of her lovers forever, not just for this life, but beyond this life. That's what they say there. And they say that for a man, we only wear that auric imprint of our lovers for a year, then it wears off. I don't know. However, I believe that supports the theory that there's more to a woman than there is to a man. Okay, because if your electromagnetic field is so sensitive, maybe larger, that you're going to wear it into eternity, that's kind of an important thing. And I do think that it's important for me to tell you about that, because women do need to be warned about this. It might not be true. It might be that we all wear those things. However, one of the things that I was told is that when a person goes off, well, it was stated when a woman goes off, but I guess we could say it might happen for men as well. When a woman goes off and has sex with another man, then goes back to her husband, she brings back that charge in her aura. And when she engages in sex with her husband after this other fellow, that she shocks him, and it's a shock from which he can never recover. I was involved in Eastern religion earlier in my life. Those were some of the teachings. I left that stuff behind pretty well. One of the admissions of the teacher, cult leader, was that he was a teacher of Saturnalia. And I'm glad I paid attention, and I'm glad I remember that, because Saturn is the other side, basically. If we can repent, the biblical principle is that Yahweh also repents of whatever evil he planned for us in judgment for our bad behavior. He stops doing. I think that's an old, long-standing principle. We in the United States of America, I don't think we're going to repent. But we don't have much of a choice. We have to do it on an individual basis. That's how this war is fought and how it will be won. So that's why my goal is to turn the country into 5% Bible readers, not believers, not churchgoers, not followers of this faith or that faith. I want people who read the Bible daily and hopefully live by it. Maybe with only 3% we can do it. But I think if we hit 5%, we can do that. We can revolutionize this country once again, but use a psyop. And we can have a new world order, but it'll be a new world order underneath the Messiah, Yahshua. You need to understand something. You've been sold a wrong bill of goods. You're told that this is the new world order that's coming out of Silicon Valley. Yeah, they run the show quite a bit today. They probably run the show from Silicon Valley more than they do from Washington, D.C. We've been taken over. We're captured. We're enslaved. They have not deported us. They're much more advanced. Instead of deporting us into another jurisdiction and using us to buffer them as a buffer between them and their enemies, which is what the Syrians did with us. They took the Israelites over and settled them on the other side of the country between themselves and the Medes. So when the Medes wanted to go after the Assyrians, they'd have to take on the Israelites first. So the Israelites would end up defending this Assyria. In our case, we have been given a new jurisdiction. So it's not a republic anymore. That ended a long time ago. The 17th Amendment destroyed the republic. That's my opinion. I don't know what yours is, but you can put that down in the comments, please. There were other things that resulted in the destruction of the republic. One was the creation of corporations. Our founders wouldn't allow it. They would never allow it because the corporations that existed on the planet were pretty evil. East India Trading Company. There were a couple of things that the Crown of England authorized and allowed to be incorporated. In case you're wondering, the Crown is incorporated underneath canon law in Rome. So it's all one giant corporation out of the beast, headquarters in Rome. Don't kid yourselves. I know you Roman Catholics or people that have come from that, you're not going to want to hear that, but that is, from what I can tell, the beast system. I was educated by the Jesuits. I had a good close friend that became a Jesuit, John McMahon. I wish I could get in touch with him. He's just a little bit older than I am. I'd like to know his impressions today. I don't know if he succeeded in becoming a Jesuit or not. I do know this, that the most powerful man in the world is the Jesuit general, otherwise known as the Black Pope. He has an office across the street from the Vatican, and he is also the White Pope's boss. He's the guy in charge. Whenever they choose a new Jesuit general, they fire off the cannons, because it is a warfare thing. They're waging war on the rest of us. And one of the earlier Jesuit generals was noted as having said, "From this little office, I control all the secret societies in the world." And I believe that is the case. I also believe that they started several of the religions today. I believe they've had their mitts in all of it. I think the Protestant Reformation, I think they infiltrated that and screwed up Protestantism. I think they created the Islamic faith. They started that as well. Parallels that Roman Catholic Church so well that quite often previous Roman Catholic Church get turned into mosques. They seem to somehow get built next to each other or inside each other. Yeah, even that, on top of each other. So I also believe that they had something to do with the creation of the Jewish faith. However, the Jewish faith, Moses was not a Jew. The Jewish faith, the Jews will tell you, did not exist until the time of the captivity. And of course, when we read the Bible, we find a Jew mentioned here or there in Kings, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and that's probably the first mention, but it's not really defined as to what it means and what it refers to. Does it refer to an inhabitant of the land of Judah, or does it refer to somebody practicing that faith? Since that faith didn't exist until the Babylonian captivity, what's it refer to? And of course, I'm pretty sure that these bad guys were involved at the Oracle at Delphi, and they had some really incredible roots that go way back. I mean, from my impression, you can say this started with the fallen angels. But there's a problem with that, is that when I get into the book of Revelations, it's like I'm reading the end, or the beginning at the end, because I hear about 1/3 of the heavenly host getting cast down, all kinds of stuff like that, and it's like, hold on, is this where it begins or where it ends? And then the other thing is that there were 200 angels, that's the best number I can come up with, who gathered at Mount Hermon a long time ago, and they conspired. This was the original sin. They conspired because they found the daughters of men to be fair. They conspired to go into them and to take all of them that they wanted for wives. And as part of their conspiracy, they agreed among themselves not to ever mention it again once they left Mount Hermon. At least somebody overhear a couple of them talking about it. So that, to me, was the original sin. I know that's different from what you've heard. Nobody else has given me that idea. Blame that one on me. Could be wrong. But I really think that it's time to take the original sin off Eve and off Adam and lay the original sin where it belongs. And I believe that that original sin is why Yahshua was sent here, to correct that in particular. Okay? Just my guess at this point. I'm not trying to invent a new religion or create a new religion. My father, who's at rest now, it's been 3 years, a little over 3 years, 3 years and 1 month. He suggested I start my own church. I think he was kind of teasing. I'll do my best to show up on here daily for you. I skipped a day trying to get these 2 channels. The other one's Dr. John Taylor Kent channel for the Dr. Kent Show. Trying to get these 2 channels lined up so I can number these and keep them in order. I should have better organization than what I have now. I admit that. if this channel actually grows and if the sales are enough to support it, I will hire other people. I want a manager, somebody to manage me. Okay, I don't want to do that myself. Marketing, bookkeeping, technical stuff, production. I'd be willing to engage all kinds of people and put them to work doing that. However, my one fear is that the evil ones would send somebody to help me. So I'd like to stay low-keyed and like to keep this on the small side if I can. But if it takes off, then I'm going to go with it and run with it. I do think that our job is to avoid being deceived, and number one. And the second thing is to hold our ground, stand our ground. Those were the two instructions given by Yahshua, whom you call Jesus. By the way, the Jesuit Society did not start until the invention, if you will, of the name of Jesus, when it was changed to Jesus. It went through a couple of other stages before it got to the point where it's Jesus, and that's what they sell you on. The Jesuits are dedicated to the name of Jesus. Well, if you read my Bible, you'll find that his real name is Yeshua, which means he who saves the anointed. So saving is part of the meaning of his name. I think that we've been given a very heavily edited book, edited along the way. We know that Ptolemy II screwed some things up. We know that Constantine had screwed some things up. Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, was an Idumean, an Edomite. Idumean or Edomite. Idumean is Greek word. Edomite is the Hebrew or Aramaic word for a descendant of Edom, who was Esau. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go read the Bible. That's all in the book of Genesis. I gave a Bible to Christmas to the oldest Kent ever in history right now. And I gave him the best one I could get. Mine, large print, black leatherette with tabs. Gave him tabs because he's a beginner. If you're a beginner, get the tab Bible. If you're not, then save yourself a few dollars and just remember where the books are. You should know those. I should know those. I won't buy a tab Bible for myself because I want to struggle with it so I can remember where those little tiny books are and remember the order a little bit better. The more I exercise my mind, the better I do, the better I like it. I think there are some extra biblical books that are important. Perhaps the most important one is the book of Jasher. You've heard of the prophet Jasher, right? Ah, you haven't? That's because there wasn't one. Jasher means upright, the book of the upright. It's written in the same style as Genesis, in that old quaint style. It is a very enlightening book. There are some things in it that are questionable, and some things in it that are going to make you laugh when you read it. So I won't spoil it for you. I'd love to be able to produce that, but it would be a book on demand. I'm going to suggest that to the publisher, that maybe we can come up with a better version of it. There were 36 books. When I counted them, there were 36 different books mentioned in the Bible that weren't in the Bible. And I believe that anything that's mentioned in the Bible is worth looking into. And we can't find all of those books, but we can find some of them. I think what was his name? The Book of Enoch or Books of Enoch are very important. And this is, I believe the Ethiopians preserve those texts for us. You know, a lot of folks give me grief all the way around because I'm not a racist. And they think that makes me a traitor. I hope not. And the reason I say that is because I know that, at least from what my reading the Bible and my belief is, it says every knee shall bow. Well, all the races got knees, so if every knee is going to bow, who am I to tell them not to worship the same God? Okay? So that's my basic attitude on that. However, it comes with a price. If you're going to worship my God, then you're going to read the Bible. And it is incumbent upon you to find your salvation, your place, work out your salvation in it, and figure it out. And when you figure out what it is, tell the rest of us. I want to know. But I don't think it's my responsibility to do that for you. I have no idea. There's a lot of other races out there, a lot of other subsets out there. I don't really want to get into it. As one of the other great authors whom I know said, I didn't want to open that can of worms. And that's exactly what it is, because they use that to divide us and to conquer us and keep us subverted. However, now that I've said all that, black Hebrew Israelites can make a claim, and one of those claims is going to be, heck, those guys preserved the book of Enoch, or the 5 books of Enoch. I bought a copy of it. I'm not happy with it. I'd like to get a better copy. I'd like to get the originals if I can someday. A friend of mine had them and was going to give it. He gave it to me and took it back, and then he gave it to another friend of ours. So, not really. It was his book. He can do with it what he wants, but doggone it. Alan, you Indian giver. I love you, brother. He's older than I am. He's collected more Bibles, and when I'm looking for expertise in the different forms of the Bible, he's the one I'll call because he's familiar with them. He's checked into most of them. He knows the critical differences in passages, so he goes and looks at all that. By the way, I gave him my very first copy of the proper name version of the King James Bible, and he liked it. He was really glad to have it. So that's where the very first one went. It was a large paperback that had some tremendous room in the margins for for notes and for studying. I went and got myself the leatherettes. I bought 3 of those. I gave 2 away, and then what else did I do? Then ultimately I got rid of the 3rd one because I got the large print, which I like quite a bit more. I will probably, I haven't worn this Bible out yet. I did wear out the hardback Zondervan's parallel translations, and it was parallel King James NIV side by side since I started with the NIV. I broke bindings on 2 of those. They only lasted about 9 months, so they're not very well made. I think we need to open our minds and be open-minded. The idea of an angel, we could think of that as possibly being an alien. We could also think of it as being a trans-dimensional being. There's a good chance of that. We have to be open-minded on these things. The Bible explains things as best it can. There is another nuclear war in the Bible. I say another one because Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed with nukes. We've got physical evidence of that discovered a little bit over a decade ago. So there's another war in the Bible. Can we avoid that? Well, if we can repent and stop being Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, I think that we can set that one aside. I don't think we get away with that. We shed innocent blood all of the time in this country. If we had real respect for diversity and states' rights, we would allow the states to have different laws regarding abortion. I think that would be the ideal way to go. As a psychologist, I would want to see the data come in. I would look at those as grand experiments. Let's look and see what the long-term results are with different laws in different states, and then we can learn from it and do what is best. I realize that that's probably splitting the baby too much for a lot of you. I'm looking at a step in the right direction. I believe that men have been deprived of men's abortion rights. A man is part of the child, equal part of the child, ladies. It takes one of your cells and one of our cells. And so we should have a say in the fate of that child. You should be required to consult us and get our consent. And you should be required, if you can't get it from us, if we don't talk to you, which it happens, then go to a judge and have the judge give you what you want. You should be able to walk into court without an attorney and go before a judge and give testimony. I think that a man should be notified if it's at all possible, and I think a man should be given the option. And a man who wants his child should be able to go into court. When that lady goes into court to abort the child, or after it, shortly thereafter, and tell the judge, if he wants his baby, tell him, I want my baby, I want my child. And then he should be able to be awarded that child on the spot, that upon birth, that mother who wanted to abort the child, don't make her responsible for it. I'm sorry, women aren't held to the same standards of responsibility to begin with. Let the man be responsible. Give him full responsibility, full custody. Let him have his child. Let him save his child from being killed in the womb. There are a lot of families that would really appreciate that. I mean, and men, we deserve our rights. I'd love to have a state that required that. I don't like the abortion at all. You may think that conception begins when you hear a child's heartbeat 6 weeks into it. No, it occurs at the moment of conception, when that big spark of electricity, that light that's given off at that union, which indicates the strength of that soul and the importance of that soul. That's when it begins. So, and of course, I mean, even though I say it's half my body and half her body, okay, it's half the man's body, half the woman's body, the real truth of the matter is the baby's body. It's just that we men would like to have our children, would like to save our children. If you women want to continue to run off and run around, you want to live in the streets, so be it. Let us men have the children, we'll take care of them, we'll rear them. You may not think we don't want to do that. As far as families go, criminality, as far as welfare goes, I think those were major mistakes. We destroyed the black family in the transition into the 20th century, which would have been year 1900. The black family was probably better than the white family, better behaved. But once Lyndon Baines Johnson got his social engineering laws put through, which he was handed, I'm sure, by our keepers, it destroyed the black family. You destroyed the black man's place, the respect for the black man. He could no longer take care of his family. You destroyed that. You got in the way of that. I don't think we should allow that any further. Look at what we have. What's the percentage of blacks who have fatherless parenting? Fatherless parenting results in criminality. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to understand that. But once we get rid of this welfare system at the federal level, okay, mind you, we get rid of it at the federal level and let the states do it if they want to. Let the states do it, but no federal funding for it. The state has to take care of all of it. In some states, they wouldn't want to have any of it, in which case the local churches could pick up the slack. The more local it is done, the better the relief will be targeted. So, in my opinion, when the black woman has to compete to keep a man and to compete for a man, she will stop her errant ways and stop being so abusive. A lot of the psychology literature, which was brought to my attention in graduate school in particular, has been suppressed. And what we find is that there's things that just you can't talk about because it's considered racist, yet it's scientific. It's actually measured. It's actually been investigated. Fatherless parenting is the cause of criminality. So rather than by default giving women custody of the children, I think by default you give custody to the men, and you won't have to build any more prisons. You can actually start shutting some down, or you can consolidate things. Yes, why don't we actually act in the best interest of the child? We're not acting in the best interest of the child. I explained it decades ago as to why fathering was more important than mothering. Now, of course, nobody's born without a mother. A mother is the giver of life when it comes to that. And the connection between mother and child is automatic. She will go to bat for that child. She will indulge that child, and she'll produce a criminal pretty directly. Whereas the gulf between a father and child it's natural, and it really is incumbent upon the child to reach across that gulf and connect with the father, to connect with the man. And when the child is able to do that and bond with the man, because it's really the child and the child's talents that get this result from the man, then you've got children that grow up properly, and only 6% have problems with the criminal justice system, whereas with men raising the children, with women raising the children alone, it's 70%. We don't. That's the stats for boys. We don't have the stats for girls, but I assure you, they are worse. That's my impression. We can't research it. It's not permitted because it doesn't support the narrative of our masters on this plantation, which we psychologists manage for the masters. When I was educated, 80% of the literature was biased. One of my professors said that. I think probably 90% of literature is biased now, maybe even 95%. We're required to force liberalism on you. You have to take all this other crap from everybody else, but we don't have to respect or support your culture or your race or your gender. We don't have to do any of that, or your families in particular. That's how they went after us. Destroying the family is how they took America down. It was that important. It was that strong. So if you want America to be great again, then give more support to families. You men out there who run into married women, back off. Respect that marriage. Don't get involved there. Don't do that. You're going to be better off. Much better off. Much healthier if you actually showed a little bit of self-discipline and put some boundaries there. I can't come up with anything right now. I just want to wish you a happy new year. Thanks for hanging out with me that as long as you have. This is kind of my overall philosophy, but here I go again. This war that's in the Ukraine, all of the stuff that we're going through right now has all been written about in the Bible. It's all in there. The terms are a little archaic, a little bit different, but it's there. Even the nuclear weapons are described adequately for the period. You don't believe me? Well, there's 3 videos by Rex Tibosaurus on was there a nuclear war in the Bible written 2,500 years ago. He did a good job. He did a good job. He got into some of those words, and it turns out one of those words can be interpreted as sacrificial fire, nuclear. He got into the dimensions of those old objects that were part of that culture way back then. In the context of, you have to understand these in the context of the culture. He got into the dimensions of these different things and how they were described. He applied a lot of logic to it, and he basically come up with descriptions for our modern nuclear weapons, the missiles, the warheads, all of that. It's in there. It was so good that I had to say, seems right to me. That's all I could say. I mean, and there's my name and my credential on it. It seems right to me. He's got it down. I'd like to avoid that nuclear war. That's going to only happen if men get control of this country back again. Right now, women are running it, and I'm sorry, ladies, but you're just too vicious. You have natural mothering instincts in you, which require you to actually be a lot meaner than men. I mean, one of the problems the Israelis experienced when they first started drafting women was they were too vicious, and they couldn't control them enough in combat. They just weren't controllable enough compared to the men. That was a long time ago. I don't know if that still holds true today. This problem in the Ukraine is very important. If you don't believe me, go to my blog, givingpsychologyaway.com, and look at the bottom. On the first page, there's a bunch of tabs for pages. And so those are only accessible on the home page there. Go to the bottom. It's like world history in one picture. And you pull that up, and you will see that the emblem on the Ukrainian flag and on all the military patches, including the Ukrainian Navy, and including those Nazi brigades that are supposed to be private militias that they supposedly don't have responsibility for, they all have the same damn symbol in the patch. Smaller for the unit patches, but it's there. That's the same symbol that ancient Khazaria went to war under. That was a sociopathic culture, and they majored in poisons and poisoning people and stealing their identities. Okay, and then on top of that, you look at the symbol for Moloch, the old god in the Old Testament. Other name for Moloch was Baal. Same symbol. Minor differences. Sometimes you can see an owl outlined in them. Another part of their symbolism. Another one, you can see the inverted pentagram, the 5-pointed star. You need to understand that this is the old stuff from the Old Testament brought forward. It's the same enemy as, was it Elijah took on? Yeah, it's in the Bible. Go read it. Same enemy. They do the same stuff today they did back then. There's not much new under the sun. And if you don't understand what they were doing, then go look up July 3rd, 1933, Soldiers Field. And you will see a video of a ceremony worshiping their god Moloch. I want you to understand that those were not Jews that did that. Those were Canaanites who did that. And Esau took two Canaanite, not one, but two Canaanite women to wife. And his descendants became known as Edomites. And today they worship the same God. They did that ceremony on Soldiers Field, I believe, in dedication, Chicago, in dedication of this nation to their God. It is the fight between good and evil. Thank you for tuning in to Awakening Israel. Share this. I've got about half the viewers on this as I have on the other channel. This channel I'm not going to go commercial on. The other one I'm thinking of going commercial on. If you want to support me, I don't ask for donations. I ask that you buy my Bible. Give me the opportunity to earn your hard-earned dollars. And more importantly, let me give you more value than you're giving me. This is the cheapest price you're going to find these Bibles at, and it is less than half the price of the competitors, and it blows the competitors away. It's modern English, much more accurately. There are little minor variations. It is the King James Bible from 1611, but modern English, and some of those words weren't translated properly back then. By the way, King James was not a nice guy. And the fellow who oversaw the translation of the Bibles, it's questionable as to whether he was a nice guy or not. He might not have been a good guy. And sadly, that's all I'm going to tell you today about that. I don't want this to continue on any further today. So Happy New Year. May Yahweh bless and do your best to get out there and awaken our brothers and sisters in Israel. That's the most important task you can, because as we awaken our brothers and sisters in Israel, we might get this nation back. We might reestablish our republic. And by the way, just as a tip, so that you know, we're going to argue about the government in the future quite a bit. And the best thing we can do to get along is to pare this doggone thing down, cut back on this monstrosity, get rid of these amendments and these extra bodies that were created, especially in the last century, and go back to constitutional rule. And that's going to be going back to the original 13th Amendment, the 10 amendments with the Bill of Rights, plus the other 2 amendments, which were adopted in short order, and then the 13th Amendment, the original, which was passed, ratified fully in 1812. We need to re-embrace that, and all the others need to go away, including legislation based upon those, and perhaps even legal precedents. I'm not saying that we have to reinvent the wheel fully, because our founders gave us a perfect form of government. It was biblically based. They cited Deuteronomy more than any other book of the Bible. And we screwed up about 10 years into the Great American Experience. The people of the good state of Pennsylvania decided that death was too harsh of a punishment for adultery, so they changed the law. They improved. No, I don't know about that. You might think they improved it, but they changed it from death penalty to 10 years in the stocks. I'm going to blame that one on the Quakers. Oh, please take care. Read your Bibles. Stay off the roads tonight if you can. If you've got pets, dogs in particular, close the windows, crank the music up. Be handy to keep them comfortable. There's going to be a lot of anxiety for the pets tonight. I don't know. She's dreaming. No, she heard a car door slam. She's really alert. Okay. All right, Lorraine. Goodbye, folks.